That's right. Microphone check 1 2. What is this? It's B Michael here with Shifting Paradigms Business, and we are live. We're here on KUAW Radio, Knowledge, Understanding, and Wisdom Radio, brought to you by the Black Family Technology Awareness Association here at the W.E.B. Du Bois Learning Center, where we do what we do. Got Baba G on the ones and twos, always holding it up and keeping it down here at the studio. I'm B Michael, your host. We're here with Shifting Paradigms. And today we're going to continue what we did last time, a couple of weeks ago, with Nature Paradigmatics, where we talked about the nature of humanity. The nature of Homo sapiens sapiens is a wise, sagacious human being with the purpose of reflecting the image and likeness of the Creator, reigning and controlling yourself and creation, being fruitful and multiplying, reproducing on earth as it is in heaven. And so, again, the program's mission, what Shifting Paradigms is all about. We're here to stimulate critical thought in order to realistically redefine our narrative and positively reshape our reality through dialogue with that good Kujichagulia, that self-determination. And so we're just going to jump right into tonight for the sake of time. We want to make sure that we get everything covered. But just to kind of reflect, we went over some questions about who is man and what is man, as the scriptures in Psalm 144 tells us that man is made a little lower than Elohim and the angels and crowned with esteem and splendor, right? As the crown of creation, humanity is the crown of creation, created last right before the Sabbath in order to reign over everything and enter into the rest of the good works that the Most High has given us to do, right? We were also told that we're, again, made in the image and likeness of the Most High, right? And we're to reflect that image through our perceptions. This is what's so important. We're not literally made in the image and the likeness of the image of the Most High, because the Most High is transcendent. There is no true anthropomorphic image of the Most High. It is just pure intellect, pure intelligent energy. The Creator is transcendent, pure, intelligent, indivisible, right, energy. And so we use the power of perception and only dealing with not only dealing with the ability to see things as they appear truly, but also to project ourselves in the right fashion, right? Which deals with the likeness, the similitude, the nature, the characteristics and traits of humanity. That being, again, wise. So we reflect that, right? And then we reign over things. We have dominion, authority first and over ourselves. We control and master ourselves. And then we reproduce. We bring that image and that likeness into multiplicity. And then we just talked about Homo sapien as being the wise human. And then in Hebrew, there's a term called Talmid Hakam, which means a wise student. And it is equivalent to that of being a Homo sapien, in that we are intended to study creation and study Creator and understand that within this creation, that there are laws that govern, right? Universal laws govern all of creation. But when you look at each kingdom, right, the animal kingdom has laws, the plant kingdom has laws, the insect kingdom has laws, also the human kingdom has laws, and we know those as Torah, the Torah, okay? And that's what governs us and gives us the optimal conditions of which to experience life on earth, okay? And we talked about how that consciousness comes, as we read in Genesis 2, where the Most High breathed the breath of life into the nostrils of Adam, and he became a living being, right? That Hebrew word there is nefesh. He became a living soul, right? But that was derived from the consciousness. And we talked about the development of religious thought from dealing with the elemental cults, right? Those that recognize the four elements of creation and how they worship that. Ancestral cults, those who worship the ancestors. Animist cults, where you see principles alive in the creation, right? Totemic cult, which worships the idea epitomized in animals, right? Hero cult, which worshiped different men and what they call apotheosis of men, where there was transformations of man who actually was deified. And then, of course, you have the stellar, the solar, and the lunar cults, right? So there's 8 different cults that man has experienced. Israel transcended all of those because Israel worships the true and living creator that is beyond any of that, transcended. This is why the second commandment tells us to make no graven images. No graven images, okay? So the idea, the perception, again, had to be that akin to our creator. And that was, again, through that breath that was breathed into the nostrils of Adam, which is to awaken that consciousness and went from the reptilian brain, from the limbic system to the neocortex, which is where spiritual consciousness in that pineal gland is lit up. And then your menorah, and we're going to talk about that a little bit tonight. Your menorah is now lit. So now you're bearing the light of life. Okay. And we talked about the meaning of man. What is Adam? Adam, we came to understand, it depicts the interior roles of initiation, the utilization, and the facilitation of the office of Elohim on earth. It is the power of life hidden within the blood. And that's what Adam means. When you take the Hebrew letters Aleph, Dalet, and Mem, the Aleph, the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, is the hidden power. It means power. Dalet means door. Mem is the 12th letter, and that gives you the power of life in the waters of life. Mayim, it also means Mayim, but when you put Dam together, that is blood. But the Aleph in the blood is what Adam means. Okay, the power of life in the blood, which we must find and bring out, Adam. And so today we're going to start talking about the second Adam. We want to talk about the new humanity, because the first humanity died as a result and dies as a result of Adam's transgression. And what is interesting is when you read Ecclesiastes chapter 3, and I want to say verse 11. I'm pulling it up right quick. It wasn't a part of my program tonight, but this verse just came to me. Indeed, it says, Ecclesiastes 3:11, he has made it all beautiful in its time, even eternity, even the ages he has put in the hearts of humanity, except that no one finds out the work that Elohim does from beginning to end. So we are eternal in essence. We were created to be eternal. However, because of our transgression, because of our separation from the pattern and the paradigm of life, well, we find ourselves succumbing to death. Okay, and this is where that law of sin and death comes into the fold, something that humanity was not introduced to. But we have that free will, that choice to make, to go away from the life that the Most High has given us, to enter into a life that challenges us with mortality, right? But eternity is a part of our paradigm. And so the second Adam, it tells us in 1 Corinthians 15, verse 45 and 46, that the first Adam became a living being. The last Adam, a life-giving spirit. And this is what we have to understand, why the one known as Yahushua ben Yosef was manifested, was incarnated. He was to demonstrate the true purpose of humanity and the true potentials of humanity when you overcome sin. He lived a sinless life. He did not break Torah at one moment in his life, in which if he did, Israel and the leadership of Israel would have either stoned him, they would have burned him, or they would have decapitated him. But instead, he was beaten by the Romans and impaled on a tree. He was lynched, if you will, pretty much. That's what happened. He was lynched, okay? And so that demonstrates that the Israelites could not find fault with him, and he was blameless. And this is what caused him to rise from the dead. He is the firstborn from the dead because of his sinless life. Because he destroyed, he nailed to the tree what law? The law of sin and death. He didn't nail the law of Moses to the tree. He didn't nail the Torah to the tree. He nailed the law of sin and death to the tree. That's what was nailed to the tree. And so this second Adam became a life-giving spirit. And the spiritual, however, was not first, but the natural, and afterward the spiritual. And this is what we have to come into consciousness, into awareness with as we're born. But we have to also understand, as children, we have to be reborn. as spiritual children. Just as we're born and come into the earth knowing nothing, well, so we have to be reborn into the spiritual life where we really don't know anything. This is why the Messiah tells us if anyone wants to come to the kingdom, he must be like a child. But that is based on curiosity. That is based on the desire to learn and grow and to know. That's what that is based on. But let's get to this principle, Adam Kadmon, right? This is what is known as the primordial man, okay? In fact, when you read Genesis 1 and you see that man that was created in Genesis 1, that in fact is the Messiah. That is the archetype of creation. That is the oneness of male and female combined together, epitomizing the reality of messianic consciousness. Because it is about the balance. It is about the unification of man and woman. It is about the balance of energy. So when you read Genesis 1, 26 through 28, you're reading about the Messiah. Okay, that is the archetype. That is the office. That is the ideal of man right there. Genesis 2 gives us the actual man incarnate when he is introduced to his wife. And now their goal from that moment forward in the garden and even out of the garden is to return to their original mindset, which is called Adam Kadmon, the primordial man. According to the Jewish Encyclopedia, and I think we went over this before. We did, as a matter of fact. But it's just dealing with the ideal man, the messianic consciousness. Let's just really just make that plain there. I'm not going to get into the details of that because I got some other things I want to get into as relates to who we are as Adam Kadmon and what our appearance, what our nature is supposed to be like, right? So when we understand that we are children of light, when we understand scientifically that we have a electrochemical makeup, right? Our body is composed of 75% up to about 75% water, including bile, including, plasma, including blood, right? Including other secretions that come from our pineal and pituitary glands, including mucus, including tears, including sweat, right? All these chemicals that course through our body are really conductive of light. It's powerful. And then not to mention the thermal aspects of us based on the pulsations of our heart, which gives us these electrical impulses. Also the synapses and dendrites in our brain and the neurons that fire off, well, that's electrical impulses. And so when we look at this and we put this together, we understand that we have the capacity to shine light, much like the earth with the core, its core with lava and its rotations, which interesting, they say they're now starting to go the opposite direction. But as the earth rotates at the core, it gives off electromagnetic pulsations, which gives the earth what is known as atmosphere. And those atmospheric layers for earth give earth its aura. Its aura. Ionosphere, thermosphere, right? The stratosphere. You got all these different spheres of the earth that protects it from debris and harmful light. Well, guess what? We have the same thing. Our rotations are known as chakras. Our center and cores are known as chakra. We have chakric energy. The scriptures speak of this, right? Some people are so, I don't believe in chakras. The Bible doesn't talk about chakras. Oh, it does. It's just not expressly called chakras. The scriptures speak about auras, which we do have, that come from our chakric energy along our central nervous system, our spinal cord, and our brain, the crown. They emanate auras. It's called the armor of Elohim in some terms. The chakras are known as the wheels within the wheels, the Gilgalot in Hebrew, the Gilgalot, right? Even the Sephirot in Hebrew, the spheres. And so when we deal with this, we have to understand our bodies originally were designed to emanate light. In fact, there are traditions, according to this article, from both Jewish and Christian sources that teach that before the fall, the skin of Adam and KUAW was luminous. KUAW is the Hebrew name for Eve. KUAW, the mother of all life. KUAW derives from the word chaya, or the word chaye, which means life. And she was the mother of all life, chaya, KUAW. But the skins of Adam and Hawa prior to their fall was luminous. In other words, they were covered by divine light and would glow, so to speak. I hope this triggers your mind to make some connections to Moses' face when he comes down from Mount Sinai or Mount Sinai, and Mashiach on the Mount of Transfiguration when Moshe and Eliyahu or Elijah appear with him. Okay? But he says we'll get there soon enough. This idea or tradition isn't random. The Hebrew language is very idiomatic, metaphoric, and figurative. Contronyms, homonyms, and words that sound alike, and parables and many other literary devices are used heavily to help one understand spiritual concepts through the experience of natural things. Hebrew speaks through our senses and imagination. And imagination is a very powerful capacity we have to access prophetic consciousness, because you have to be able to visualize and see this stuff, which is why when you're dealing with what they call the apocalyptic genre, prophetic consciousness of scripture, it's using a lot of imaginative and figurative and flowery language. That's what the Hebrew language does. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us tonight. I see Random Maznini, excuse me if I'm not pronouncing it right, but thank you for coming in. I am Hart joined also in the Instagram world. Thank you all for tuning in. For those in Facebook, Auntie, thank you. I see you. Good evening to you as well. Thank you for your compliment. And so, again, the Hebrew language is very idiomatic, right, and very dynamic. It draws simple pictures that even a child can understand. As the old adage says, a picture is worth 1,000 words. In our case, it is neither coincidence nor chance that the Hebrew word for light and for skin, sound exactly the same. That Hebrew word is or. Or. It is Aleph and Rosh. Aleph, Vav, and Rosh. Okay? So look at carefully. So when you're dealing with the Hebrew word for light, it is Aleph, Vav, and Resh. The Hebrew word for skin is also pronounced or, although it is spelled with the Hebrew letter ayin, which means the eye. Okay? Aleph means power. Ayin means eye. Okay? But it's spelled ayin, Vav, Resh. And that is the Hebrew word for skin. But they're pronounced exactly the same. Okay? So that lets us know there's a double entendre there. The only difference is the first letter, which light begins with the letter Aleph, a letter heavily associated with Elohim. In fact, the first letter of the Hebrew word Elohim is Aleph. And skin begins with the letter Ayin, which also means eye. Both Aleph and Ayin are silent letters, which is I'm talking about with Adam, the hidden power, the silent power in Adam, which we have to discover. They have no sound aside from the vowel associated with them. In other words, the vowel is shown by the letter Vav with the dot on top, which gives it the R sound, which is called a cholim Vav. The last letter is a Resh, an R sound that pictographically means a man's head. Rosh, head. This is what Rosh means, or Resh means head. Okay? Connection. The Vav is the connecting principle to the head. By simply looking at the pictographic meaning of these words, both have a heart that connects. Vav means to link, connect, or hook together. It also is the number 6, the creation day for both beast and man. In the verses above in Genesis, the text presents us with a beast that speaks like a man. And this is Genesis 3, the snake, the serpent. The Hebrew word is nachash, which means the whisperer, the beguiler, and the deceiver. The Hebrew letters for each word reveals what light and skin connects or links one with. In the case of light, the head is connected to the Most High, Aleph, the Father, the King. But in the case of skin, the head is connected to only what one's eyes can see. Very powerful. When we are to bear light, our heads are connected to the Most High. We're in Torah. We are becoming Torah. We are transforming our mind by its renewal. We're circumcising our heart by keeping our faithful allegiance to the covenant. Okay? When we are walking in our flesh, when we're walking in our skin, we're going and we're led by the lust of the eye. It is those three things, in fact, that got KUAW caught up at the tree. The lust of the eye, the lust of the flesh, and the pride of life. right? Those three things get us every single time. But when we're walking in the light of the Most High, and we're walking in the knowledge of the Most High, and our head is filled with the knowledge of Elohim, we bear light. So Dr. Alawine in the Creation Gospel Workbook 4, the Scarlet Harlot and the Crimson Thread, has this to say. Rabbinic insight is the clothing of Adam and KUAW was glory. And rabbinic insight is that the clothing of Adam and KUAW was glory or radiance, or with an aleph, a white light invisible to the human eye that was replaced with the covering of skins, or with an ayin. So they removed the aleph and put an ayin. Yah removed the aleph and put an ayin there, okay? The white light is the same covering of the bride of Messiah in Revelation, which we will read very shortly. The bride reflects the lamp of the New Jerusalem, the lamb. The lamb is the sun, so to speak. The bride is the moon, and we'll talk about that a little bit as well. In terms of the menorah, there was a spiritual covering over the first couple's earthly bodies, a covering or radiance pictured when Moses spoke with Yah on the mountain, receiving the Torah covenant for Israel. Like the Holy One in whose image they were made, they had corresponding covers of light like garments. Our bodies are made of light. In fact, when we go and reread Genesis 1, and we can really see it for what it is, right? When we can see this for what it is, we can actually see the code deciphered when we read Genesis 1 on the fourth day. Okay, the fourth day is very important for us to understand. Okay, in fact, it reads as follows. It says, and Elohim said, this is Genesis 1, 14 through 18. Elohim said, let lights come to be in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and appointed times, and for days and years, and let them be for lights in the expanse of the heavens to give light on the earth. Didn't Yahushua tell Israel and his disciples that you are the light of the world? And didn't Abba Yah tell Israel that you are the light to the Gentiles? So these lights are codes for the people of the heavens, whose mind is set on Elohim. Woo, let's go. Let's go, right? So let them be for lights in the expanse of the heavens to give light on the earth, and it came to be so. The Most High's voice and his word does not come back to him void. When he calls out something, it returns. Those who return to him and fulfill his will are the true words of the Most High. Okay? And Elohim made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night and the stars. Elohim set them in the expanse of the heavens to give light on the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to separate the light from the darkness. And Elohim saw that it was good. What's so beautiful about the scriptures, and what people truly misunderstand about what many call the New Testament, I know it's the Messianic scriptures or the Messianic codicil, right? Is that the Messianic codicil in Yahushua, what he did, he provided what's called in Hebrew drash, interpretation of the Torah. He was a rabbi. He was a prophet. So he gave us a definitive understanding of what the Torah intends for us to do, what the proper interpretation and application of the Torah is. So when we read even the letters of Shaul, the rabbi from Tarsus, Shaul, or who many call Paul, he tells us this in 1 Thessalonians 5. It says, now brothers, now listen to how he starts this out. As to the times and the seasons. Now remember, the stars, the sun and the moon are for signs, times, and seasons, right? But he starts off saying this. Now, brothers, as to the times and the seasons, you do not need to be written to. Why? Because you know what it is, right? For you yourselves know very well that the day of Yah comes as a thief in the night, right? To those who are blind, they won't see this. For when they say peace and safety, then suddenly destruction comes upon them as labor pains upon a pregnant woman, and they shall not escape. But you, brothers, right, are not in darkness. Why? Because you are the light. So that this day should overtake you as a thief. For you are all sons of light and daughters, I will add that. You are all sons of light and sons of the day. We are not of the night nor of darkness. So then we should not sleep as others do, but we should watch and be sober. That's with our eyes on Elohim. That's when our head is connected to Elohim. That's what makes us aware. That's what gives us consciousness. That's what allows for the breath of Yah to be breathed into our nostrils. For those who are asleep, sleep at night. And those who get drunk at night. But we are of the day should be sober. We who are of the day should be sober, putting on the breastplate of belief and love, and as a helmet, the expectation of deliverance. So we're called the children of light here. We are the ones who are discerning and also even the signs of the time. How do we know this? Well, let's go to chapter 3 of Zechariah. It tells us in the revelation of Yahushua the high priest that Satan came to accuse, which the angel and the messenger of the Most High rebuked, right? This is what the messenger of Yah said to the high priest during the days of Zerubbabel, during the days of Ezra, during the days of Nehemiah. And this is a descendant, in fact, of Miriam, who is the mother of Yahushua. This is a descendant, an ancestor of Yahushua, his mother, because she was a Levite as well. Remember, she was a cousin of Elishivah, who was the mother of John the Baptist. He was a Levite, through and through. Okay, but continuing on. This is Zechariah 3, verse 6 through 8. It says, and the messenger of Yah witnessed to Yahushua, saying, thus said Yah of hosts, if you walk in my ways, and if you guard my duty, then you shall also rule my house, and also guard my courts. Now, it's so interesting because the sun goes through houses. Those houses are called zodiacs or constellations. They're called zodiacs, right? There's 12 of them. And as they go through each house, there's many mansions in my father's house, right? There's many rooms in my father's house, okay? If I wouldn't go to prepare one for you, I wouldn't tell you. If it wasn't so, I wouldn't tell you. But what you have to keep in mind is that this is a reflection. This is what you call correspondence, as above, so below. This is our responsibility to manifest this reality on earth as it is in heaven, okay? So you will rule my house and also guard my courts, and I shall give you access among these standing here. Now listen, Yahushua the high priest, and your companions who sit before you, for they are men of symbol. They are men of sign. They are omens. And that Hebrew word is otot, but that otot is the same word that you read back in Genesis 1, verse 16, where it talks about the sun, the moon, and star for signs, seasons, and times. And this is speaking ultimately about us. This is something that we have to decode and decipher and connect, because the layers of this, the revelation of this word is so important. We can read it on the surface and get it on the surface, but until you get the revelation of the word and understand who you are in the Most High as the sons of day, as the sons of light, you won't see it. Not properly. You won't get the image of Yah down. And so we see this even more illustrated in Scripture. We see this with the dream of Joseph. This is Genesis 22. Genesis 37. I'm going to come back to Genesis 22 in a moment. Well, let me go to Genesis 22 because this lets us know that we are the stars. This is now Yah speaking to Abraham. This is verse 15 through 17. And the messenger of Yah called to Abraham a second time from the heavens and said, by myself I have sworn, declares Yah, because you have done this and have not withheld your son, your only son, that I shall certainly bless you, and I shall increase your seed as the stars of the heavens and as the sand which is on the seashore, and let you possess the gate of their enemies. But you are going to be increased. You're going to be magnified as the stars of the heavens, right? And as the sand on the seashore, the dust of the earth, if you will. But that is also a symbol of being like multiplicitous, like to be many, right? To be expansive, not only magnified in power, but also in number, okay? And that's what that's being spoken about. But to confirm that we are the stars of heaven, again, Genesis 37, the dream of Joseph tells us this. He dreamed still another dream. This is his second dream he had. And he related it to his brothers and said, see, I have dreamed another dream. And see, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars bowed down to my star. And he related it to his father and his brothers, and his father rebuked him and said to him, what is this dream that you have dreamed? Shall we, your mother and I, the sun and the moon, and your brothers, the 11 stars, indeed come to bow down to the earth to you? So they're identifying the stars, the sun, and the moon with themselves. They're connecting that. They're understanding their role as the light of the world in their purpose and their mission as human beings, what their nature was intended to be. Joseph knew that well. Jacob knew it, but he kept that matter close. He rebuked him in public, but he's like, you know what? He may be on to something. I think he sees something that we ain't fully getting yet, because Jacob was a dreamer too. Jacob was a dreamer too, and Joseph was his favorite. But he was like, I don't want my boys to wear you out right now, so I'm a chastise you verbally in front of your bros. But I hear you. Trust me, I hear you. There's something about it, right? So the stars. Let's continue this. This is now going into the battle of Sisera and Barak with Deborah, the prophetess Deborah, right? This is in Judges 5. This is before Yael drove the tent peg through the head of Sisera, the king. Excuse me. But it says this in Judges 5, verses 19 and 20, speaking of Israel going against the sovereigns in Sisera. It says, sovereigns came, they fought. Then the sovereigns of Canaan fought in Ta'anak. By the waters of Megiddo, they took no spoils of war. Then it says, from the heavens, verse 20, from the heavens they fought. The stars from their courses, speaking of Israel, fought against Sisera. They're calling Israel here the stars. Clearly calling them the stars. Now, to even further illuminate this here, this is from Daniel 12, and I'm using scripture only because scripture is what gives us the authorization and the clear revelation of what is what. In Daniel 12, verses 1 through 3, it says this. Now at that time, Michael, the archangel, shall stand up, the great head who is over the sons of your people. And there shall be a time of distress such as never was since there was a nation until that time. And at that time, your people shall be delivered, everyone who is found written in the book. This is speaking of a tribulation to come, which we are really knocking at the door at right now. We're really pretty much at the door of this tribulation. If you look at everything that's going on around us, there was an earthquake today in Turkey, I believe. It was a 7.8 earthquake, I think. Over 1,800 people have died. There should be earthquakes in diverse places. We're seeing earthquakes everywhere. There should be wars and rumors of wars, right? Nation against nation, people against people, famines, disease and pestilence. We're seeing all this proliferate right before us. The signs, if you will, that the sun and the moon and the stars are to give on earth, we're seeing them. But are we dividing and knowing how to discern the signs of the times? Okay. So everyone who is found written in the book, shall be delivered. Verse 2, and many of those who sleep in the dust of the earth wake up to everlasting life, some to everlasting life, and some to reproaches, everlasting abhorrence. And then it goes on to say, those who have insight shall shine like the brightness of the expanse, and those who lead many to righteousness like the stars forever. So this is telling us our original nature. This is giving us what our countenance is to be like. We are light. We are intended to be light. That is the purpose of human beings on earth. That's why Homo sapiens means those who are wise. Sapience means wisdom. When you operate in wisdom, I guarantee you will be shining. You will be shining. Your aura will be aglow. Okay? Let's further illuminate this. Ephesians 5, it tells us you were once darkness. This is where we see in the beginning of Genesis 1, the earth was covered in darkness and everything was formless and void until Yah said, Yichaor, Vayichaor. Until Yah said, let there be light, and then there was light. We have to respond to the word in order to bring forth the reality that the Most High has called into existence. That is our responsibility, and it takes wisdom. It takes a mind, a head connected to the Most High to respond to do that. Because if you're connected and only to your eyes and you're following only what your eyes see, which is why the scriptures tell us we walk by faith and not by sight, then we'll understand this by and by, more and more. Okay? But we were once darkness. We were in ignorance. We were in sin. We were dead. We were prodigal. You were once darkness, but now you are light in the Master. Walk as children of light. That is who you are. That is who we are. We're light. The world needs life. The earth right now is in dire need of light. Children of light, stand. Sons and daughters of Elohim, rise. Rise up. KUAW is the Hebrew word. KUAW. Rise up. There's a brother today, Kyle Hollins, shout out to my man Kyle Hollins, talked about this word aliyah in one of his posts. He said aliyah, it means to ascend, it means to go up. Well, this is an ascent in consciousness as well. This is going from our lower chakra regions where our beastly nature is found and getting to our heavenly nature. This is what 1 Corinthians 15 is all talking about. Going from a terrestrial earthly man, a corrupt and mortal, to a heavenly, to an incorruptible, right? Into an immortal being, which we were created to be. Remember, he put eternity in our hearts. He's made it beautiful in his time, except no one knows what the Most High has done from the beginning to the end. Again, walk as children of light. For the spirit, the fruit of the Spirit is in all goodness and righteousness and truth. That's the fruit of the Spirit, proving what is well pleasing to the Master. This is reasonable. This is using your intellect. This is what your mind was for, to use your intellect. Shalom, Mama. I see you up in Instagram. Proving what is well pleasing to the Master, and have no fellowship with the fruitless. The fruitless. We're not being productive. We're not reproducing if we're operating with the works of darkness. Darkness does not produce life. Rather, reprove them. For it is a shame even to speak of what is done by them in secret. Right? But all matters being reproved are manifested by the light. For whatever is manifested is light. When we see things, oh, I see now. I can see now because the light has been shown and now you can see. That is why he says, wake up you who sleep and arise from the dead and Messiah shall shine on you. And this is going back to Genesis 1 again. When we see that man spoken of in Genesis 1, that is the messianic prototype that we are all to enter. Yahushua is not supposed to be the only Messiah on earth. We are all supposed to be messianic. We are a messianic nation. We are a kingdom of priests, and all priests are anointed. And we talked about this last time. In Revelation 12, it tells us this, verses 1 and 2, further illuminating the light countenance that we are to have. This is speaking of Israel. So when you're looking at this woman that I'm about to mention, this is speaking of the bride of Zion. It says a great sign was seen in the heaven. Okay. Now, when you're talking about that, that's a whole nother story. But this is talking about the Holy Land. This is talking about the promised land on earth. Heaven on earth, according to Jacob in Genesis 28, is Mount Moriah. It's Mount Zion. It's where the throne of the Most High is established. It's in Jerusalem, in other words. And a great sign was seen in the heaven. A woman clad with the sun, with the moon under her feet. She was covered and clad with the sun. That means the light of the Most High was in her. The moon was under her feet, right? She was master of the night. And on her head, a crown of 12 stars. This is the children of Israel, right? And being pregnant, she cried out in labor and in pain to give birth to the messianic nation of Israel. But this is what this woman is for. This is what this bride is for. It's to give birth to this government. It's to give birth to this new order. I won't say new order, to the renewed order that Yah had established way back in Genesis 1. That's what this is about. And we're wrapping this up here. It's getting close to the end. I'll just have some summations to come after this verse here, because this verse here wraps it all up. This lets us know who we are as human beings, what we're to aspire to, and our full potentials of consciousness, and our full potentials of working righteousness and bringing forth redemption and restoring the earth with justice, with love, with peace, in power and with power. So these are the things that we are charged with as Homo sapiens. Or we are just going to behave like beasts. And when you look out, we're seeing what the earth is being subjected to as it's being controlled by beasts. People who are led only by the lust of their eye. People who are desirous of material gain, and that's it. Whose God is their appetite. And this is a reality. But we who are of the light have a whole different trajectory. We have a whole different purpose. We have a whole different mission that we're supposed to accomplish. And that's to, number one, love the Most High with your heart, soul, and strength, all of it, and love your neighbor as yourself. Seek first the kingdom of heaven and all its righteousness, so everything else can be added to you. And like I was challenging my camp a couple months ago, listen for how many times you hear the word righteousness or righteous spoken. I guarantee you won't hear that spoken too many times today. You won't. Why? Because it's not on the frontal lobe of most people. Most people. Not to say you won't hear it at all, but you'll rarely hear it. But let's wrap this up. 1 Corinthians 15. This is verse 46 through 53. It says this: the spiritual, which is in man, however, was not first. We have to go through a rebirth. We have to be transformed and renewed in our mind. But the natural was first, and afterward the spiritual. The first man was of the earth. The first Adam was of the earth. He was earthy. The second man is the master from heaven. Now, we are all supposed to be in this man. We are all supposed to be in this man, and this man is also supposed to be in us. That's the secret of the ages. Colossians 1 verse 26 tells us the Messiah in you is the secret of the ages. Of the ages, which the world does not know. Because the world has its eyes set on the world. Their heads are connected to this world. They're shallow. But those whose minds are set on heaven, they see it. They have the vision. The vision, not the vision. They have the vision. But as is the earth, as is the earthy, so also are those who are earthy. Like begets like. And as is the heavenly, so also are those who are heavenly. You have heavenly potential. You have the potential to operate in order like the heavens do. There's no failure in the heavens. It is in order every time, all the time. And as we have borne the likeness of the earthy, we shall also bear the likeness of the heavenly. In this I say, brothers, that flesh and blood is unable to inherit the reign of Elohim. Neither does corruption inherit incorruption. If we're operating in corruption, there's no way that we're going to inherit incorruption. If we're operating in temporal reality, we cannot inherit eternal reality. You can't. It's impossible. See, I speak a secret to you. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed. How do we know this? Well, let's think of individuals like Enoch. Let's think of individuals like Eliyahu or Elijah. They didn't sleep. They were transformed. They were translated. Even Yahushua, though he died, he still lives. Because why? He was sinless. That's that transformation you have to go through, because if we're only occupied with earthly things, well, that's what we are. We're going to decompose. We're going to be earthy. We're going to do earthy things. We're going to die because the earth decomposes, okay? I speak a secret to you. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet. That is what is known as the Feast of Trumpets. Yom Teruah in Hebrew. That's in the 7th month, in the fall, the first day of the 7th month, right? When that call goes out. That's when that transformation takes place, because you respond to the call. The bridegroom is coming. The bridegroom is coming. And you go out to meet the bridegroom because you've prepared. You put on your garments. You got your light all on. You go to the chamber. You go first through the examination of the Day of Atonement. Are you clean? Are you innocent? Are you pure? You're innocent. Good job. Well done, my faithful servant. Good. Now come into the bride chamber. This is what Tabernacles is all about. This is what the Feast of Sukkot is all about. Right? So now you come into the bride chamber. You're going to consummate. You're going to be the bride of the Most High, and the Most High is going to give you this child, and guess what? There's going to be a whole renewed government on earth. It's going to be on the shoulder of this child that was born from this woman's womb that you just read about in Revelation 12. And that's us. That is us. All right? For the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall all be changed. For this corruptible has to put on incorruption, and this mortal has to put on immortality. Now let's wrap this up. Let's talk about how the body is created to emit light. Hallelujah. Gotta bring it home. Gotta bring it home. Thank you for tuning in again. But this is an excerpt from an article I wrote that's called The Revelation of Genesis. It's on shiftingparadigms.wordpress.com. It says, interestingly, the human body is created to emit light. This ability is due to the scientific fact that, according to research, we are not only able to communicate with light, but also we are made of and from light. This capability is akin to the luminance of the moon in that we are able to reflect light from a greater source of energy that gives us the ability to illuminate our entire being. The process by which we are able to do such matters, based on what Real World Physics website says, is based on a process called, quote unquote, bioluminescence, in which light is produced from an object without it being heated. This is caused by the absorption of energy by appropriate materials. This energy can come from radiation in the X-ray or ultraviolet region of the electromagnetic spectrum, electron beams, chemical reactions, and so on. This type of electromagnetic radiation, or light production, is a quantum phenomenon in which the absorption of energy, such as from ultraviolet radiation, excites the outermost electrons surrounding the nuclei of the atoms of the absorption material. As a result, these electrons jump to higher energy states. But this higher energy state is unstable, so the electrons return to their original unexcited state and release their absorbed energy as a result in the form what we call of biophotons, the life light. Okay? So what is being described above, that's end quote, what is being described above as relates to the ability of humans emitting the light of life is what we have previously written about in terms of what is called the work of the chariot, the Merkabah. I say Merkabah in Hebrew is what it's called. The work of the chariot. Okay, this is what Yahushua did to transfigure. This is what Moses experienced when he was on the Mount of Sinai and he came down with his face aglow and he had to put a veil on his face because everybody was afraid to look at him because he was like an angel. That's what we were created, a little lower than. But when we elevate our consciousness, we become like the angels. In fact, the Levites in Malachi 2 were told that they are the angels of Elohim. Why? Because they bring the word of Elohim. They're his messengers. But they have to be light. So this work was demonstrated by Yahushua at the Mount of Transfiguration when he activated his true light body, which is the primordial nature and the appearance of humanity. We just read that. We were made of skins of light. The correlation of this experience to that of the procession of Israel out of Egypt to bury their father and during the Exodus experience is because the resulting reality of the nation following these instructions is to bring forth the divine presence of the heavenly onto earth and administer the rule of the kingdom of Yah. So we are Yah's reflection on earth. When the world sees us, they're supposed to see Yah. When this takes place nationally, all of Israel will be aglow with the Shekinah of Yah emanating from their inner being. Ultimately, this is a matter of cause and effect, or call and response. or the call and response relationship between the master of the host of heaven and humanity. In addition, the corresponding relationship between the crown, our head, our highest peak, the pineal, and the kingdom, which is beneath our feet, is also at play in the process due to the circumstance of humanity's requirement to ascend upwards on the tree of life, or the ladder of Jacob, in order to enter the higher state of messianic consciousness. This is what connects the nation of Israel to our higher consciousness. In principle, it is symbolized in the Hebrew spelling and the meaning of each letter in the tetragrammaton Yod-He, Wah-He, which give us the name Yahweh. As the Vav connects the actions of the spirit above to the spirit beneath, so too do our actions determine our connection to either higher or lower realities. And this is all about our conduct. This is all about our mindset and our conduct. What our minds are set on, as a man thinks, so he is. If we're thinking of heavenly thoughts, well, that's the conduct we're going to bear fruit with. If we're thinking of earthly thoughts, well, that's going to be the conduct that we're going to bear. And you hear us, unfortunately, so many saying that I'm a beast, I'm a savage. You hear people saying that. Well, guess how they act? Like beasts and like savages. We don't hear people talking about, I act like God, I act like the Most High, I act like Elohim, I act like an angel. You know what I'm saying? We're demons. You even hear people call themselves demons now. It's demon time. You hear people literally saying this stuff. And we're not really making the connection. This is what shifting paradigms is all about. We have to present the alternative and the true reality. Because if we're going to be acting like demons, well, we're in trouble. This world is about to be consumed by darkness, and it's going to get really, really wicked. Right? And these are things that we have to shift in our thought process. And this is something that I strive to do with me and mine, to make sure that we have our minds set on matters that are above and not below, right? Because we want to rise, we want to ascend, we want to reach a higher plateau. We got to do better as a people, you know, not just financially. We got to do better there too. The average household in America is for blacks is like $14,000. It's like $180-something thousand of non-white, of non-black people, right? But at the same time, what is our spiritual conduct like? We're bankrupt spiritually. We have to make a change, people. We have to ascend this ladder. We have to rise up in our nature. We don't need to operate from the heart down. We need to operate from the heart up. That's so important. So important. But I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. You all are definitely appreciated. I want to give a shout out again to KUAW and the Black Family Technology Awareness Association for always doing what they do and holding it down and keeping it up. We'll be back in a couple weeks. I will more than likely have a guest via Zoom with me next time. We're going to be talking about some pretty interesting matters, and I'll just let that, do what it do, when it do what it do. But I'm B. Michael here with Shifting Paradigms. Thank you all once again for tuning in. I'm signing out. Peace and power. Shalom, shalom.